All right, so today I wanted to basically share a PSA, which is that it is normal to lose everything when you are going through an awakening experience. And I'm going to explain why. And not only is it normal, but it's a really, really good sign that things that are familiar to you are disappearing from your life. So if 95% of our operating system is the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind is partly comprised of that default mode network, the thoughts and feelings and strategies that keep us tethered to a familiar reality because it's our identity, right? It's what is familiar to us. It's the known. It's the familiar emotional bonds of our childhood. It's the strategies that we created in reaction to the emotions of our childhood, right? Forms of manipulation and seduction and controlling. The default mode network. And default mode network is such a perfect name for this because it's the default, right? It's where we tend to default if we don't focus. Because the purpose of it is to help us survive, and that's a mighty purpose, right? Everything in nature is very well equipped to survive in its own way, and that is, part of our makeup of how we have survived up until this point, but that program is now moot. It is no longer necessary. So if most of your bandwidth is tethered to, right? Tethered to your familiar emotions. So let's say bitterness, let's say resentment, let's say jealousy, boom, 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 boom. So first of all, right, before I go any further, I emphasize how basically incredibly vital it is and non-negotiable that if you are having a true awakening, you are unmemorizing emotions. You are letting go of emotional bonds, and therefore you have to become aware of them, and therefore you have to feel them and surrender them. You have to let them process through your system and stop escaping them, because they're actually trying to help you untether yourself from the past. Because yes, part of us is trying to survive and stay in the known, but another part of us, the spirit, is evolving, right? Is evolving the forms of reality. So, in other words, the energy of desire, that's also part of it. Our vibration is not only our beliefs and our habitual default mode network, right? Our beliefs about ourselves and about life and all of that. It's also the energy of desire, the impulse of desire, the universe's desire moving through us as us. So, you have to become aware of and feel just how resentful you are. Just how resentful part of your mind feels, just how angry, just how bitter, just how powerless, just how, right? If you don't let yourself feel how angry you are at someone, you will not understand the sponsoring belief that creates the projection, right? And the belief is wanting to be liberated as well. Because why? Because God is love. God is not chaos. Life is not punishment. Life is not neutral and meaningless even. Life is love. God is love, and we attract what we are vibrating because we are loved, because it's the universe trying to free itself into new experiences, because fundamentally what we really are is the unknown. So if 95% of us is tied up, tethered to all these familiar things like codependency, and what's the sponsoring belief underneath codependency? Well, several things. Maybe I can't make it on my own. Maybe I need to recruit something in the outer world to pick up the slack that I don't believe that I can create my reality the way that I want to. Maybe I don't believe that I am endowed inherently with all of the creative energy and every single thing that I need to create the life I want, because I am life itself. I am the creative principle, right? If we don't know this, if part of our mind doesn't know this, we We will make demands on reality. We will make demands on our partners. We will make demands on our friends. We will make demands on our parents. And so on and so on. And as long as you are unconscious of the way you are tethered, right, you will continue to attract those teachers, right? If you are embodying a victim consciousness in any way, I believe I'm trapped. I believe I'll be in this forever. I believe in the worst case scenarios. I believe I can't heal. I believe that I'll be stuck in my situation forever. I believe that I will never heal. I will never evolve. I will never get what I want. I can't do anything about this. I have no options. I am trapped, right? If you are embodying that in any way, and how do you know you're embodying that? If you are choosing things in your life that don't feel good to you, you are choosing them because of that bond of victim bully, right? Or victim, right? Misery loves company. Or we are recruiting something from the outer world to try to fill a lack within us that doesn't really exist. And so how fortunate is it that when we are embodying a victim, we attract abuse? How fortunate, because God is love. Right? And so when we attract those things and we realize really what is at the root of my choosing of that is that I don't believe in myself. I don't know myself, rather, as what I truly am, which is infinite creative potential, which is just unlimited resources, choices, solutions to everything. Right? That's the essence of the creator, is that for every problem there is a solution and you have access to the solutions. But if you are embodying a victim mentality, you only have access to the awareness of problems. And therefore you will attract people that will enhance that awareness in your life situation, because God loves you, because you are God, because you are life, and you love yourself, and you're trying to show yourself something so that you break through it. So if almost all of our bandwidth is tied up in the subconscious, in these thoughts and feelings, when we start to feel our feelings, right, this cord collapses. We are no longer attached to something in the outside that validates the emotional addiction, right? If you are addicted to disappointment, right? And you have disappointing friendships, right? That was a big one for me, right? Not knowing at first that, wow, I keep choosing people who disappoint me because I am in an addiction of disappointment. I have memorized, I am familiar with, disappointment is more familiar to me than connection, than harmony, right? I had to acknowledge that about myself. Why is it that I keep choosing people that let me down? Well, I have expectations of them. Why do I have expectations of them? Because I am wanting them to fill a role in my life that I believe is lacking in myself, whether that's a motherly figure, whether that's a nurturing female friend. When I began to embody the nurturing qualities within myself, and to feel the love of my soul, this unbridled bliss, right? Bliss is not an emotion. Bliss is the self-evident existence of the soul. It's the radiance of the soul. It's like this ecstasy of just being alive. Once I tuned into that and tapped into that and found that, those people disappeared from my life. And why is that a good sign? Well, if I am no longer recruiting from the outer world anything or person to fill a lack within myself, then there will be a period where the old model that I was living in, right, the physical world that reflects the beliefs about myself, if I am letting go of these beliefs and these emotions, every form that represents that state of being will either disappear or it will change form, right? And how can it change form if you no longer villainize anyone, if you no longer project a story upon anyone, if you just let them be what they truly are, which is the aspects of them show up in your life because of the projection coming from you. And I'm not saying don't use your discernment and don't, you know, there is a certain intuition that we have, right? When you tune into a friend, for example, this happened in my life, a person that was very prevalent in my life, I let go of that relationship because I just felt a futility. There was no emotional, the propeller that got me away from it was not hatred or blame. It was just a futility. It was a feeling of there's no communication here. There's just no communication here. And I completely welcome that coming back into my life in another form, maybe at some other time. But, you know, it's like how many people get divorced? How many people break up a partnership? How many people end up not having children? Is having children unawakened or awakened? No, but if you were choosing to have children or choosing to have anything in your life based on an autopilot conditioning, right? A cultural program. Oh, that's what people do. That's what women do. That's what people do by a certain age. If that's the only sponsoring desire that wanted to sponsor that child, it's best that the child isn't here now or yet, right? You should have children because you deeply desire to have that experience, which is a beautiful experience. But it's normal that when we feel whole, everything that we created out of a sense of lack and separation will go, either completely or change form. And that is a good thing. It is a great thing. And it is great. And it's difficult for some people to see it that way because one of the gates, one of the eyes of the needle that we must pass through is the gate of aloneness, loneliness. And trust me, I've spent lots of time alone in the last 15 years. A lot of time alone, but I wasn't truly alone psychologically because I always had somebody to say goodnight to, whether it was my then partner, right? Somebody to, basically, I never went through the initiation of true aloneness until recently. And on the other side of that gate, of the other side of that initiation is bliss. I avoided feeling alone in so many ways. I would reach out to people that I didn't even really want to talk to, or I would try to connect with people that I had no genuine desire to connect to. It was just a feeling of fear and aloneness that connected me to these people. Or a feeling of, you know, those people that you talk to that all you talk about is the drama going on in your life. And when I really decided to stop doing that, I had to take an inventory of my life and say, wow, there are just maybe like a handful of people in my life, now more than that I can connect with and enjoy. But when I decided, like, no, I am simply not going to move in this world from a place of trauma and separation. I'm just not going to do it. On the other side of that decision is the most unbelievable bliss of my soul, because the only sheath or covering up the radiance of the soul is these perceptions, right? Of lack, of aloneness. We're never alone. And when you feel the radiance of your soul and you radiate the song of your soul into reality, aloneness doesn't even occur to you. You're just radiating such ecstatic bliss, and gratitude is the wrong word, but just awe and love and excitement of being alive, right? That's why it's so important to stop projecting, right? Feel your feelings. And then what happens is the alchemical process, right? The alchemical process of the heart, right? It draws into itself all of the survival emotions up into itself, and it turns it into bliss. So it's normal to lose everything. because most of our bandwidth until we awaken is being used, is tethered to the known, the familiar. In your life, how can you let go of the known a little more, right? How can you remove yourself from time, which means remove yourself from habit? Do not reach for your phone right when you wake up. Don't do the same exercise routine every day. Play music and see how it moves you. Practice being moved from within instead of being siphoned into the death of autopilot, because the only death that exists is autopilot, because we live forever. We live forever, and when you feel the feelings, all the feelings that are covering up the bliss body, and you feel that bliss, you'll realize that the only form of death there is habit, is routine. And I'm not saying all habits and routines are bad, you know, some of them are really good. I just don't, it doesn't make sense to me. I just don't think about the future. And so life is moving through me in spontaneous ways. And I remember noticing, like, I used to get acupuncture years ago. I got it twice a week for 2 years. And I would notice, like, over time, I would randomly, you know, at one point I would want like 4 bananas a day, and then I would all of a sudden be repulsed by bananas, and then I would need blackberries and peaches, and then I would go to the acupuncturist and she would say, oh, your kidney is low, you need blackberries and peaches. And I said, oh my God, my inner being is already choosing all the right things for me. And I started to trust this. I started to trust it little by little. But how can you in any way, right, ask your higher self, like, how can I move out of time? And another way, right, besides practicing feeling your inner body, feeling your heart, and asking your heart, like, move me today, move me today. There's a beautiful prayer. I don't know if it's a Course in Miracles or if just a lot of people who read A Course in Miracles say this prayer, but like, what would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say? Right? And then be moved. Get in the kitchen and play music and see what your body grabs, see what you put together. It is possible. I am reporting this from experience. It is possible to live in bliss. Does that mean you never have a negative emotion? No. Does that mean you never have a reaction? No. It does mean that you don't stay in the reaction, because it's just not true, because it's impossible to blame, it's impossible to project when you realize that your only job is to alchemize your energy, to become a master of your energy, and to feel your feelings, and to alchemize that emotional energy into bliss. Because all energy is life force, and when it arises as an emotion, it's just life force that's tied up into a perception that feels like a knot in your solar plexus. But when you feel your heart and you let it move through you, it moves through your heart and it becomes bliss again. So look, the point of this video was, it is normal to lose everything. Don't let that make you feel like a failure. Don't let that make you get stuck in assuming that something has gone wrong, and give yourself patience and kindness. It's difficult to lose everything. We do experience loss. Loss is the most tender emotion we have, because it's most like the original wound, the separation. The idea that we are separate from God, right? If we believe God is outside of us and we lose something in the outer world, then we will feel that pain, that same pain when we started to believe we were separate from God, when we came out of the womb. But to go through that gate, to go through that wormhole of aloneness, of no thingness, right? even if you lose everything, if you lose your belongings, if you lose your family even, it doesn't mean that you're bad. It doesn't mean that anything has gone wrong. It means that you have successfully disidentified from the known. And it's not easy. So be kind to yourself. But once you practice being kind to yourself and seeing it in this way, it no longer feels difficult. Because what is shining through you is the radiance of your soul. It doesn't depend on anything in the external world. So if you have lost everything or much of your life, if you feel alone, feel your heart and ask your higher self, how can I see this differently? How can I see this differently? How can I see what is happening in my life as a gift? Because everything is a gift. No matter what it feels like to your conditioning, everything is a gift. Every symptom in your body is a gift because it's an awareness that you're mismanaging your energy. And it's a renewal of desire for health. And how do we know that the universe is love and that grace is constant? Because as soon as you breathe and relax, you feel the buoyancy, you feel the love that's holding you. It's always there. You just have to stop assuming the worst about yourself and about life, and then you start to vibrate with it. So if it's always there, and if all you have to do to access it is to relax and consciously acknowledge that it knows you intimately and is holding you, and that everything that comes to you is a gift that you designed to give yourself, man, life takes on an effervescent, epic flavor of orgasmic bliss. So I hope this is helpful. And I hope that if you are on this journey and you are in the middle of a loss, that you, no matter how dark it is right now, just feel your heart. Feel your heart and be in the darkness. It cannot always be night. It can't. It's a law. I love you. Have a good day.